The Tomb Kings were actually an incredibly innovative faction when they first came out. Before them, no one had crafting or unit capacities or the Books of Nagash. Slowly over time, their unique mechanics have been gifted to other factions, leaving them feeling a little bit dated and generic. These days, they're just the dry, undead faction that refuses to pay its armies and rules over the desert with a bony fist. The Tomb Kings Extended mod is aimed to change all of that and bring a huge number of changes to get them feeling fresh and fun in this new world of Immortal Empires. So let's dive right in and find out how it all works. Also, this video is sponsored by Instant Gaming, but more on that later. Where overhaul mods like the Bretonnia collection aims to rework existing mechanics and add new ones, the Tomb Kings Extended mod builds on what's already there to make the entire race feel a lot more complete and each faction feel a little more unique. All factions now have the ability to spend Canopic jars to rush construction, allowing much faster building up of settlements. The speed at which you earn Canopic jars is also increased by allowing them to be earned through post-battle loot alongside the post-battle option. Similar to regular loot, the amount scales based on the strength of the hostile army, but regardless, this will massively increase the speed at which you gain them all game long. Jars can now also be spent on unit upgrades similar to the greenskins. These upgrades aren't standard stat changes like most other factions, instead these are blessings unlocked through technology that specialize the unit for a specific role, like bonus versus large, terror versus humans, and so on. They're quite expensive if you wanted to kit out a full army, so are more something to be built up over the course of the game, and really incentivize you to keep your armies alive so you don't lose this hefty investment. All factions can now also subjugate enemies when defeating their final settlement. This is a little bit niche but can come in useful in specific situations, especially with a certain lord that refuses to serve. The tech tree has also been changed around, including whole new text being added for each of the existing factions themed around their lore and gameplay. The layout is still very much the same alongside the dynasties, unlocking you more lord slots, so the way you research doesn't change much. It's more so that you have more options, especially once you get to the late game. The Mortuary cult still functions mostly the same, but with a bunch of items that have been tweaked and added to make it feel more worthwhile. Banners and followers are a whole new category and allow you to spend jars to fully kit out your characters with everything they need to reach final form. Regiments of Renown have also been changed around with some unique options for each faction available through crafting. I'll cover these more in the battle video, but in short, each campaign is going to feel pretty different on the battlefield by the time you reach the endgame. If you'd instead like to find the end of buying games at full price, then you'll want to take a look at Instant Gaming. In the last few months, we've had some of the best releases of the entire year. I'm talking Black Myth Wukong, I'm talking Red Dead Redemption, and who can forget, I'm talking Just Dance 2025. If you wanted to stay on top of the latest and greatest releases, you'd be dropping a mortgage payment on games every single month. But it doesn't have to be that way. Instant Gaming offers keys for pretty much any game you could wish for, from new releases to older classics, all at heavily discounted prices. Space Marine 2 for 26% off, and of course the entire Total War Warhammer catalogue for the prices they should have really been in the first place. They have all 5 versions of Skyrim for up to 79% off, so if you're the one person that hasn't bought it yet, why not see what all the fuss is about? I'd recommend this one and a whole bunch of mods. Now I could go on, but the bottom line is if you want a game, chances are they have it, and chances are it's a cheaper price than you can find it anywhere else. And I know that these key selling sites always seem super sketchy, but they offer 24/7 customer service and have a 4.7 out of 5 stars rating with over 700,000 reviews on Trustpilot. That's a lot of numbers, but all it means is in the unlikely event that you do have an issue, they'll get it sorted for you as soon as possible. And if you need any other reason beyond getting yourself some cheap games, anyone who buys something using my link not only supports making videos like this, but you also get entered into the monthly prize draw to be in with a chance of winning a free game of your choice from the entire catalogue. So if you'd like to save some money on games, click the link below to browse the full catalogue. One last thank you to Instant Gaming for partnering with the channel, and now back to the Tomb Kings. The pyramids have also seen some huge changes from the base game. Previously, you'd simply take this element with the pyramid icon, build the landmark pyramid, and get some decent effects. Now, building the landmark grants you effects alongside opening up pyramid complex buildings. This works similar to Undercities, where you can click on the pyramid icon to access a set of new building slots. In these slots, you can use a whole new set of buildings to empower your faction in various ways. There are some tier 1 buildings that grant you these bonuses right out the gate, but any that have multiple tiers will actually give you negative effects until they reach their maximum size. I'd advise not building these until you're very secure in your finances and have built up a main obelisk building to the required size to complete each line. You want these debuffs for as little time as possible, so just make sure you can complete each line before you start them. Every pyramid is different, and building them up will not only cost you in the short term, but also reduce relations with different factions depending on the pyramid. The effects are well worth the effort, but these are absolutely late game projects requiring hundreds of thousands of gold to complete, so only attempt when you are truly ready, or you could very easily tank your game. Oh, and one last little treat is once pyramids are built, Any enemy that takes that settlement will instead raze it to the ground, erasing all progress on both the pyramid and the settlements, so really make sure you keep them safe to avoid losing a ridiculous amount of time and gold. There's also a number of new landmark buildings in Nehekara that come with some pretty powerful effects. The Scarab City in New Mass, the Palace of Corpses in Qatar, and these two both have associated quests that grant you legendary lords and heroes alongside their own effects. Khemri, Bagar, the Black Tower of Arkan, and the Black Pyramid of Nagash all have the restored Khemric Titan statues. The existing Tomb King factions have also seen some changes specific to each faction. All 4 of them have an optional new starting location they can instantly teleport to upon starting the game. This will grant them control of a new region while still maintaining their original foothold, alongside increasing their army capacity to fight on both fronts. It sounds really hard, but with the Tomb Kings, it doesn't really matter since you're not paying for the armies anyway, so you can just kind of play both sides at once and essentially fight 2 campaigns at the same time, which can be a lot of fun. These are of course totally optional, but give each campaign some more replay value, whether it's your first time playing them or your 20th run around the block. Cetra has been adjusted to be more in line with his claim of being the true king of the desert. He can extract much more gold from vassals, allowing him to subjugate other factions for a ton of profit. He also has a new domination mechanic in the Mortuary cult. This allows him to confederate the other Tomb King factions by spending a huge amount of gold, jars, and tradable resources. Lastly, he's given a little bit more power for his chariot units to fit his own battle prowess, and his alternate start takes him to Brion. Katep's Mortuary cult specialization is staying alongside him getting a nice buff to gaining jars and spending them to rush construction. His focus on priests is now being extended to the new generic lords, as well as granting his own army a little more power in the magic department. And lastly, he now has the ability to settle in any climate, and this will come in especially useful for his new artifact seeking hobby, whatever that means. I cannot for the life of me work out what this artifact thing is in relation to him, as it's just nowhere in the mod documentation, nowhere in the game, so I have no idea. His alternate start is in Li Zhu. The only change for Khalida is granting her army weapon strength and charging buffs whenever battling the vampires, and her alternate start is in the Copper Landing. Arkan is gaining access to a much larger selection of units from both the Vampire's Counts and Coast. He's also gaining more incentive to collect vassals, but his version rewards him with many more jars alongside regular income. He's also much more destructive focused, granting him increased raising income and a Master of the Dead passive, and his alternate start is in Howling Rock. Also gaining 2 entirely new lords and factions complete with their own locations and playstyles. The Army of the Golden Scarab is led by King Nekhenatan. I'm not good at these names. He starts the game with the 6th dynasty already completed, granting him an extra army right out the gate alongside buffs for Necrosphinx units. His gameplay revolves around taking back control of the Badlands from the Greenskins, and his faction reflects this with massive offensive bonuses when facing them in combat. At the start of the second turn, you'll have the option to cause all factions in the Badlands to declare war on each other, essentially causing total anarchy, but improving your control, or delay this at the cost of your own control. This makes for a pretty fun, if chaotic campaign of taking over the Badlands area, but can be pretty challenging since everyone declaring war on each other really just means they'll make a beeline for you thanks to that lovely anti-player bias. For his own army, his aggression focus carries over to battle, where he increases the damage and charge bonus of many of the faction's constructs. The Rakaf dynasty is led by Prince Rakaf III. He's immediately given the option to move to the Mountains of Morn in search of his lost father. You can reject this, but most other Tomb Kings will judge you harshly, potentially causing you more issues staying in Nehekara. Plus, you'll never get his dad as a new lord. All their settlements work like the Skaven, meaning they appear to be ruins until interacted with. They also steal the Skaven ambush movement stance, allowing them to have a chance to ambush an enemy when they attack. All his armies also have the use of the Sand Veil ability, allowing units to move unseen during battle. His army is mainly focused on upgrading the power of his War Sphinx units, so be sure to bring as many as possible. Honestly, when I started looking at this mod, I didn't think it'd be that in depth. The mod page really doesn't do it justice. I didn't even plan to split it into 2 videos, but the more I played, the more things I found that had changed, and I had no choice as there is far too much content here to cover in a single video. Plus, the roster is really huge, so get ready for that next week. Anyway, the campaign side of things is pretty much like an official rework, but even better. All the base mechanics are still here, but the amount of detail and things to do has been drastically increased to make the faction more fun, much longer. Rushing construction is a more recent thing into the game, so adding it to the Tomb Kings really helps them feel like a modern faction by default. The increased jar income is another great change that should really be in the game regardless, since you struggle with income even without all the extra bits to spend them on. Unit upgrades are a nice touch and let you specialize your units or armies with a massive variety of buffs. These are really significant effects and there's a lot of choices, so you really do have to put some thought into it instead of just picking the one you go for every single time like other factions with something similar. The tech tree may not be the sexiest change, but making each faction's tree a little bit unique is a great touch that CA themselves seem to be doing with recent reworks, so again it makes each faction feel a lot more unique. Speaking of which, the changes to each of the default factions are all really great. The alternate style locations is such a fresh idea to make replaying lords actually worth it, and while some lords, aka Cetra, get a better deal than others, aka Katep, on the whole, it's a great change for everyone. Plus, 2 more lords to play with is honestly probably more than they will ever get officially, so you can't really complain. Lastly, that pyramid building mechanic is just insanely detailed. The amount of buildings with their own effects and the sheer amount of time and gold needed to complete everything means if you want to max out this mod in a single campaign, you're going to be going for a very, very long time and be kept busy for the whole duration. All in all, the campaign side of things feels like a huge official rework, and I encourage anyone who finds the vanilla Tomb Kings boring to give them another try with this mod, as I really think you'll enjoy them. But that's all I have for the campaign side of the Tomb Kings extended mod. Let me know what you think of the mod in the comments below, as well as any others you'd like me to take a look at. Like, subscribe, become a member to see yourself in the credits, don't forget to check out Instant Gaming, and if you want more Warhammer 3 mod videos, then why not this one, all about Crackerdrack, the Norse Dwarves.